has to be trained, because I would presume that if it's like if you jump and don't grab it with your skin, if you grab it with cloth, you'll just go straight down at nearly terminal velocity and
grab it with your leg.
Get nasty burns.
Oh, really? Because I would presume that would be an ironic thing to get a burn on the way to a fire.
While they're going down, holding on with their legs, they're putting their cap on and doing the
bungalow.
That's it, you're right.
They've got to see the fire
bungalow.
engines. Fire engines take up all the room.
That's true. You've got to have two machines abreast, is usual, isn't it? And then, if all the living quarters were next door...
Sorry, I just thought of breasts.
Oh.
two machines?
2 machines per breast.
It was an odd moment, Alan, because I was with you.
Well, some sort of pumping going on. Lifting machine or a... Never mind. No. Anyway, what I don't like is that they no longer have a ladder on the top that sometimes comes adrift, and one dangles off the end going...
yes, like in... was it One of Our Dinosaurs is Missing, or one of those Disney films where they go around London? They have, but they've used it, yes.
The only recent film, I think it was Terminator 3.
Oh, did they use it in Terminator 3?
Yeah, the Terminator was hanging off the end and went through buildings.
Wow.
It was very exciting. I think it was perhaps done on a computer.
Yeah, that's probably true. Now, talking of large tax bills, name the best-paid sportsman of all time.
Oh, so it's not going to be one of those.
Well,
it's not going to be...
I was going to say one of those. I was going to say that one on the left.
Is it...
Where are you?
Is it
not the best laid.
I actually didn't.
You didn't? That's ridiculous.
Thought crime. Crime from Alan Davis.
Thought crime, absolutely.
Is it of all time, darling? So
of all time, yeah.
So
it's going to be relative, so it's going to be someone in ancient Greece or something like
Spartacus.
Imperial Rome.
Imperial Rome is indeed where we need to be, yeah.
Is it a gladiator of some description?
Not a gladiator, a charioteer. A charioteer by the name of Gaius Apuleius Diocles. And he was a Lusitanian Spaniard, and he was the greatest sportsman of his age.
He wasn't a looker, though, was he?
Well, that may not be accurate, but we know he won.
What makes you say that?
After a while, you do turn into a little bit like the animal that you work with.
Yeah.
Yes. He won 1,462 races, which racked up 35,863,120 sesterces in prize money. And it's recorded in a monumental inscription, exactly that amount. It's called the Champion of All Charioteers. And if you compare this to the average wage of the day and use all the calculations that people use to determine these things, his career winnings amounted to an equivalent of $15 billion. Quite astonishing amount of money.
That would make Tiger Woods pale. That's a fantastic...
Tiger Woods was the first to earn $1 billion, so he's certainly the best paid of our time, but not of all time.
Was rhyming slang.
For...
You know, queer.
Oh! I think we've got enough words. We've got iron and ginger.
Although it'd be funny if we let on. If we let on the chariot. If we pretend it was a
Ben-Hur.
Yeah, Ben-Hur.
Ben-Hur. Well, Ben-Hur would suit, I think.
Right. But if you then try to reclaim it, if you try to empower yourself by using a word that we just invented, it was never actually slang at all, and you're going, well, yes, I am a charioteer, and I'm none of you can say it. None of you can say it.
Our word. We've got it back for ourselves. I'm a charioteer of fire.
Down the pole.
Hey! We claimed that in under a minute. That's fastest ever.
It was pretty good, wasn't it? Well, anyway, this was in 146 AD that he retired as the richest sportsman. And they had 4 horses, and there were up to 12 teams, and they would go round a lap like Ben-Hur there. And the skill was the cornering. It was incredibly difficult. And he won, as I say, nearly 1,500 races doing it.
Because Nero used to race in chariot races, and he always won everything.
Yeah.
But what used to happen, there's one occasion apparently when he fell out of the chariot, and everybody stopped and pretended that their horse had got something wrong with them. Having a look. Is he back in? Is he back in? And then he got back in and he won. Yeah.
Is it true or is it a myth that the people were killed in the filming? And
the original Ben-Hur, the silent one, I think people were killed in that, in the previous version. And that...
In the silent one, they're
going
but you
at
couldn't phenomenal
hear them.
speed.
Yes, they were very, very fast. And nobody minded in those days.
No, you couldn't hear a thing.
No, quite
fine.
Do you know the connection between Ben-Hur and Billy the Kid? Well, do you know who wrote Ben-Hur, the novel?
I feel like I did know it, and now I don't.
Well, he's a man called Wallace, and he was the governor of New Mexico. And he was the one who signed Billy the Kid's death warrant. So
that's fabulous trivia.
Isn't it?
Yeah, well done you. I think
Right,
you should get an extra point for that.
Staying in that period of time for a moment, please fill me in on this little piece of information. Who had to return to their birthplace for the census?
This is going to be one of those things where we say Joseph and Mary, and it isn't Joseph and Mary because that isn't what you do. It isn't that at all.
Yeah.
Because that we
Tiger
don't...
Woods. Is it?
It's not clever. Always been one step behind. The story is given in one of the Gospels, Luke, where it says that Caesar Augustus, if you remember, in those days issued a decree that a census should be taken of the entire Roman world. And we know this is just simply
It's not
poppycock.
true. The dates are all over the place. Isn't it?
And you know, there was never a census of the entire Roman world. And there is also absolutely no truth in the fact that you had to return to the place of your birth in order to complete a census, if there were a census. There is only one reason why Luke would want you to think that Mary and Joseph went to Bethlehem to give birth.
To fulfil the prophecy.
To fulfill the prophecy is the point. Is that in the Old Testament it says the Messiah will be born from the stem of Jesse. And that means... what is the stem of Jesse? Do you know what...
There's so many answers, I don't even know where to begin. What time is this broadcast?
King David, in the Bible, was David, son of Jesse. And in the various prophecies, they say the Messiah will be born in Bethlehem from the stem of Jesse, i.e. from the family.
But it's all about Joseph. And Mary, supposedly, is a virgin. So the stem of Jesse's got nothing to do
Nothing to do with it. I know the whole thing doesn't make sense.
What?
Which is obviously not. I know, Jones let me for a minute.
I spent a lot of time on this as a kid. And
Yeah.
don't tell me now. Don't let the scales fall from my eyes now.
It doesn't make any sense anyway. If you were going to count people, I mean, say we had the census here, I'd have to go back to Copenhagen. That would just be ridiculous.
Exactly, that's the point. He's only put in there in order to get him to be born in Bethlehem. And Luke is the one of all the Gospel writers who's most determined to fit in all the prophecies.
And it wasn't laterally, and like a kind of a Bethlehem tourist board type thing where they said, is there any chance you could place this story here? we got the guys with the relics ready to go. The minute you shift it to us, like we can. like Santa Claus Lapland versus Santa Claus North Pole.
Yes.
Right? This is probably exactly an excellent parallel to draw between the two things. But Lapland have just decided that's where Santa lives.
And, of course, the real St. Nicholas came from Turkey.
Of course.
Yes. And
lived in the North Pole.
the things we've really been cheated on are the really interesting books that should have been in the Bible. As you probably know, the Bible was assembled over a long period of time, well after the birth of Christ.
Well, it's about 300 years later they got together.
There were the constant conferences going on, deciding on which bits of scripture they should include in an official Bible. And there are some absolutely wonderful ones about the infancy of Christ, which I would like to share with you. And wouldn't this make you more interested in Jesus? This is one here. They're the infancy Gospels, which were rejected from the final cut of the Bible.
Is this like an Easter egg, ironically, on a DVD?
Mary dismounted from her beast and sat down with the child Jesus in her bosom. And there were with Joseph 3 boys, and Mary a girl, going on the journey along with them. And lo, suddenly there came forth from the cave many dragons. And when the children saw them, they cried out in great terror. Then Jesus went down from the bosom of his mother and stood on his feet before the dragons, and they adored Jesus and thereafter retired.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Isn't that great? No, wouldn't you have paid more attention in Sunday school if there had been more of those?
And you're reading that to us in your Harry Potter voice as well.
I'm sorry, that just goes with the territory.
The Bible meets Puff the Magic Dragon.
Yes.
Fantastic.
So that is typical. Oh, that lizard. Oh, that's a dragon. That's a dragon. Right?
Yes. Now, what did the 2001 census reveal to be the 4th largest religion in Britain?
Oh, this is going to go off, but I'm going to say Jedi.
No, the 4th largest number of people put Jedi as their religion, but they were not counted as a religion. Those who put Jedi were put in the box no religion.
They were ruled out for being silly, weren't they?
Well, basically ruled out for being silly. The 4th biggest religion is in fact in
Wait, so
Britain.
Christian's got to be top one still, Muslim second,
Yeah.
Sikh, Hindu?
Yes, 4th is Sikhs. There were 14 Scots who put Sith.
Do you know what when they released a press release about this? It's like something like 37,000 or something.
Yes, it was
37,000 people
huge,
per Jedi.
more than that,
They
390,000.
released the actual official census form said, what was the number again? Sorry?
390,000.
390,000 was released as 390,000 Jedi there are.
Very good. I'm reminded of an injustice that we did to you last series, Dara. Do you remember, we did this thing about a louse that goes into the tongue of fish.
Yes, I remember that. It was quite revolting.
It was revolting. It goes into the tongue of the fish, it eats the fish's tongue and sort of becomes the fish's tongue and lives inside them. And you said, but surely fish don't have tongues. And I brushed you off. And I'm sure a friendly way. I said, silly.
No, you
silly
stood over me, I remember vividly, with a cane, and you beat me. You beat me down. You said, "Your impertinence! You're here at my mercy!"
It turns out the fish don't have tongues.
Yes.
You're right, so we're going to give you some points for that.
Oh, nice. Thank you very much.
They have things that look like tongues in the place that a tongue would be, but they aren't muscles and they don't have taste buds. They're called bassihylas. And they're quite a common dish in Newfoundland, is cod's bassihyla.
Sorry, is he going to get points for something and we weren't even there?
Yeah. Well, we just spoke here.
I know loads of stuff I haven't said.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I'm okay, because I came on series 2
Yeah.
and said to him, I mentioned them about a thing called the triple point of water being 0. On series 3 I came back and they said, oh no, we've had emails that actually the temperature is 0.01, right? So I was 1/100th of a degree off on this, and he docked me points the following year. So, frankly, I'll happily take them. I'll take them, yeah.
Exactly. What goes around comes around.
Doesn't it?
So you've got points now. Don't feel bad. You may get points next 2 years' time.
Thanks, Dan.
Someday when you least expect it, you're sitting there, you can't be, Stephen will appear and go, some points.
It isn't actually a tongue, and it doesn't have taste buds, as I say. But what's it actually for?
Fooling Gar O'Brien.
It's getting bits out of your teeth.
Oh, I'm going to go now. It's too late. Nobody knows is the answer. You could have waited. Nobody knows.
If I do it now,
No,
can I have points in 3 years?
Maybe.
Not understood this game.
You're not alone.
I'm not there.
On the subject of numbers, though, what is the smallest uninteresting number?
What's an interesting... What do you think is an interesting number?
Oh, they're all interesting to me,
Are they?
unfortunately.
Yeah.
I really love numbers.
3 sounds quite interesting, doesn't it? It sounds more interesting than 2.
3 is the magic number.
Yeah,
Three's a
3 is
magic.
good, yeah.
Fantastic.
3 is sexy. 4 is somebody's
But
going
all-
to fall out of bed.
I mean, we've got to go quite high. Numbers all have fascinating properties.
But it doesn't make
and
sense to me. It's the smallest, most uninteresting... If it was the smallest, most uninteresting number...
You're right, it's a paradox. It would make
Would
it
it be interesting?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. In that sense, it is interesting. But nonetheless, it is, in mathematical terms, the least interesting number. But we're aware of the paradox behind
Right,
it.
but it would
So
be.
ignoring the paradox side
Right.
of it, because it is quite interesting.
Yeah.
There is a number.
And is it only a numerical interest, or is it of a physical interest
It's
as
a
well?
well, do you know the Hardy Ramanujan story? I expect. Do you know that story?
I know so many Hardy Ramanujan stories.
There was a very, very great mathematician, probably one of the 3 greatest mathematicians who ever lived, called Ramanujan, who was an entirely self-taught Indian from Tamil Nadu, a really remarkable man. He ended up being the first Indian to be a Fellow of the Royal Society, the first Indian to be a Fellow of an Oxbridge College, and he did some extraordinary collaborative work with G.H. Hardy at Trinity College, Cambridge. He was then the most famous mathematician around. But he ended up in a hospital. People thought he may have tuberculosis, and he was dying. It's an incredibly sad story.
He was 3 years, I think. He was
Yeah, that's right. But remarkable work. Anyway, Hardy went in one day to sit at his bedside and couldn't think of anything to say, and said, well, Ramanujan, he said, the license number of the cab I came in was rather dull. It's 1729, that's not a very interesting number, is it? And Ramanujan instantly said, oh, on the contrary, it's the smallest number that is expressible as the sum of 2 cubes in 2 different ways. Which is pretty extraordinary, I think you'll have to admit. You've got to have quite a mathematical mind to see that. So that, for example, is an interesting number.
I feel like Homer Simpson at the moment.
Yeah, Anyway, there is...
There is a number.
Yeah.
Sorry, so we can get this and put these people out of their misery, their mathematical misery.
There is an online encyclopedia of integer sequences,
Yeah.
which lists thousands of sequences of integers which all have different qualities. And the smallest number which does not appear in any of these lists, and is therefore uninteresting, is 12,407. But as Sandy rightly said, that makes it interesting.
Yeah.
It is the smallest number that does not appear to have any quality that, to a mathematician, is interesting.
Oh, you feel kind of
12,407.
No.
So,
That's the most famous number in the country.
it now becomes, we hope, the most famous, after 1729. So.
But it will now go on a list of QI facts. So now